Welcome back, everyone, to another OKestWeekly recap where we cover all things handheld PC gaming. All news or no news, we'll cover every brand. And don't forget, if you enjoy this video, do the OKest thing and boop that like button. And if you're enjoying the channel, subscribe below. Alright, let's jump into it. We'll start things off with our quick news as we usually do, but before we go into that, just a reminder that this news cycle was 2 weeks rather than the usual one, so some of the news might be over a week old, just keep that in mind. So we'll jump straight into the news. So there is a new 7840U driver that has come out, and that's 23.9.1, which brings with it some really good news for those with 7840U devices. Now you can install directly from the AMD website or the AMD Adrenalin app without having to use customized drivers. These drivers also fix the Starfield crashes, so if you're playing that game, you'll definitely want to grab these. And lastly, they set the foundation for some new features that are going to be coming soon. That's AMD Radeon Anti-Lag, AMD Radeon Boost, and AMD Hyper RX. Some of these features will be limited to specific games, but in the future I believe they're trying to make it across the board for any game that uses DirectX 11 and 12. Those updates are coming closer to 2024, but it's good to see that they're laying the foundation now. So getting these drivers is great news because we can finally just install directly like we used to on previous drivers, the 6800U, the 5800, and hopefully we're finally past the mess that has been the 7840U drivers, and hopefully it's a bit smoother sailing going forward. So that's all I've got for the quick news. We're going to jump straight into the Lenovo updates. I've got a number to cover for you guys. Let's head over there now. For the Legion Go, there's actually quite a bit to cover for the last couple of weeks. They had an Ask Me Anything where we learned a lot more about the device, and people were able to ask pretty specific questions, and from that we've been able to really piece together, I think, most of the information about the device at this point. So I'm going to try to group it up into sections and make it as concise as I can for you guys just to keep it simple. A special thank you to Sony Walkman from the ROG Legion Go Discord server who put together a summary of the conversation that happened on the Ask Me Anything, which is where most of this information has come from. I'm just making it a little bit more concise for a video format. So let's get started. So the Legion dock, is that something that they're working on? Well, it turns out that they are working on a specific dock for the Legion Go that will be announced probably sometime in the future. Release date. So this has been all over the place where we've had different dates thrown around, different guesses. It turns out it is going to be October 31st. Summary for the controllers. Is a controller grip being planned? Right now it's being discussed, but their current thought is that the controllers are large enough as they are. Can the controller batteries power the device as like a reserve power? No, they can't because the capacity is too low for those batteries. Can the controllers work with other devices? Well, no, they can't because they are set up to be proprietary. Some early reviewers had issues with the D-pad making strange noises, and they have assured us that that will be fixed in the production units. eGPU support, so that's not something that they've tested, but they said it should work considering the USB 4 ports are full speed, which means that they should work with any USB 4 eGPUs. They mentioned that they didn't give too much thought to eGPUs as they've considered the device more for streaming if you have a desktop PC, so that's kind of where they focused on. Does the device have gyro? Yes, it does, and it's built into the body, not into the controllers. When asked about the trackpad, its main purpose is mostly for navigating windows with a little bit of ease, but also is there for a benefit when you're playing, let's say, RTS games. Does the screen have VRR? No, it does not. They have officially confirmed that. Somebody asked why they didn't go with OLED, and they mentioned that there is mostly concerns with keeping the costs down, so with the pros and the cons, they decided to go with the current display it has. They did also confirm that the display is in fact a landscape display, it's not portrait default, and they said it's very comparable to the Y700. They've also confirmed that it is not compatible with a stylus pen, it uses Gorilla Glass, and when asked about custom refresh rates, currently only 144 Hz and 60 is supported. They are looking into other options though. For the speakers, they're 2-watt speakers, we don't have more information than that. Somebody had asked about a 32GB option for the memory, and they said for stability and for the compact size, they decided to go with 16. But they may consider that in the future. A summary of the software, so it's called Legion Space, and it's going to have an overlay to quick toggle settings that won't actually interrupt your game. It'll just go on top, kind of like the ROG Ally. The software is also going to include a FPS counter overlay. It'll have an RSR toggle, fast resolution downscale to 800p. In the future, they're planning to add FPS limiting through the AMD driver app. And apparently they have a whole roadmap of software updates all the way into sometime in 2024. For the SSD, they were asked why they went with the 2242 size, and they said the main issue is size, and the second consideration was heat. Some information for the charging specs is that it uses power delivery 3 with 65 watt fast charge, and also will work with 45 watt chargers. The port apparently supports DP and power delivery. For other supported operating systems, they said that Windows 11 is the only supported operating system. However, people can install other operating systems, but they're not officially supported by Lenovo. For VRAM, it turns out that it's going to be defaulted to 3 GB, but you can also set it to 4 or 8 if you'd like. The TDP ranges has 4 settings. There's quiet mode, which is 8 watts. There's balanced at 15 watt. Performance is 20 or 25 watt. And you can also use a custom range. When you're plugged in, you can go 5 watt to 30 watt. And when you're on battery, it's 5 to 25. So very similar to the ROG Ally. And somebody asked about adding a cap for the charging, that it would stop at 80%, and they said that this is likely something they'll be adding in the future. And we're getting close to the end. Another question was for warranty. If you change your SSD, does that void your warranty? And it does not, unless you've damaged something by doing so. And lastly, somebody had asked, can the design still be changed? And they said, no, we are way too far along in the schedule. This is what the final design will be. And that is absolutely everything. That's all the updates for the Legion Go up to the time of recording. It seems like they covered pretty much anything, so I'm not sure what else could be a surprise at this point, but I guess we'll have to patiently wait for this device to come out on October 31st. So my question to you is this a device that you're looking at picking up? And if you are, tell me why. Let's talk about it in the comments. And that's it for the Legion Go updates. Let's move on to the ROG Ally. For the last couple weeks for the Ally, there hasn't been a ton of official news ever since we got the new AMD drivers, but the modding community has been quite busy working on a few things, so I wanted to go over those today, and then I also wanted to show you a case from tomtoc that can actually support those 3D printed grips that I showed you last week. So the first mod is actually involving the RAM, where they were playing with the timing to try to, I guess, get the same results as you would get with 7500 megahertz. And it's kind of interesting that the results that they got were pretty good. Like, you can see that there's a bit of a frame advantage here. The 1% lows are higher. Overall, it just seems to be performing better and seems to be a little bit more stable. So this is good news. I did talk to the guy that was doing this though, and he did mention that at lower TDPs, it's not very stable, but it is pretty interesting that playing with some of the RAM timings can have this big of an impact. So this is something that I'm going to be following, but right now it's definitely something that you probably only want to do if you really know what you're doing, as there's definitely potential to wreck your device. So actually, speaking of wrecking your device or bricking it, there is a warning out right now from the same guy that I was talking to not use the beta version of Smokeless. Smokeless is a tool that allows you to do further modification in the BIOS, so just make sure that if you do that on your Ally that you don't use the beta version. The guy that I was talking to about this actually had it happen to his device, but he was able to restore from an older BIOS. But it's definitely not something that you should take on if you don't really know what you're doing. And the last mod that I want to go over is somebody actually managed to get 175 Hz working on the Ally display. So I've left the settings here on the screen with their for a program called CRU, where you can actually add your own custom resolutions and tweak it. So I'm not recommending that you go try this because I'm not sure if there's going to be any kind of long-term effects or anything. But for those that are curious about it, I'll leave a link to the Reddit post and you can check out the discussion there. I'm sure that these guys are a little bit more knowledgeable on this than I am. So check it out if you're interested, but this isn't something I'm fully recommending because I simply just don't have the information to say whether it'd be a good idea or not a good idea. And the last thing that I have to show you is actually an accessory for your Ally. So this is a bag from tomtoc. I do really like this one because it accommodates the 3D printed grips that I showed last week. So I have put those on my device and I don't think I will really take them off. I really do like them. But finding a case big enough for this was actually quite difficult, so I'm really happy that they actually fit here. So as you can see when I open it up, there's a compartment where you can put your device. And the nice part is it can fit all the way up to a OneXPlayer 2, which means that it may actually work for the Legion as well. And on the other side, we have room for accessories. I have a little handheld here that I'm actually going to be reviewing soon. This is an Ambernick. And then I also have a little pouch here, this little mesh pouch. I have a battery pack in here, my charger. And even with all those things, I still had plenty of room to go, so you can really pack a lot of stuff in here. And then on the front, we have another pocket, so if you want to put some cords, maybe stuff that you're not as worried about getting bumped, because it is on the exterior, you can use this for maybe phone chargers or anything else that's not really in danger of being damaged from being bumped. So you probably don't want to do what I did with the front pocket where I put the AYANEO Air there, but it can fit just to show you the size of the pocket. And lastly, if you don't want to carry it around like a small bag, there is a strap that you can attach to it so you can wear it as a hip sack or maybe a crossbody bag. Anyways, I wanted to show you guys this. It was a nice follow-up to that 3D printed grip because I was having trouble finding a case and I just happened to be reached out to by tomtoc just at the right time. So if you're interested in picking up one of these or checking it out, I'll drop a link in the description and check it out if you're interested. And that's going to do it for my ROG Ally updates. Let's move on to the Steam Deck. For the last couple of weeks of Steam Deck news, I do have a few things to cover. So the first one is that it's actually current, is that there is a sale going on for the Steam Deck right now where you can get up to 20% off. The 64GB model is 10% off, the 256 is 15%, and the 512 is going for 20% off. This brings the price lower than buying a refurbished unit. So if you've been considering buying a Steam Deck, now would be a great time to pull the trigger on it. You can buy this in the Steam store, so go check it out. Moving over to software updates, we had 8 updates come in the last couple of weeks, 7 of which are just bug fixes. And then we had one update come in that was a little bit more significant. We're going to focus on that one today, and the rest you can check out in the link in the description if you're curious. The big update right now is for SteamOS 3.5, and it's a preview stage right now, so as long as you're in the preview channel for your updates, you should be able to get it. And this update brings changes to the Steam Deck's display as well as some external displays. So they've added a new option for changing your color temperature, so you can do native, you can do sRGB where they try to emulate a more accurate image, and then there's also a boosted mode where I guess they turn up the saturation a little bit more. And then they also adjust the default temperature of the display so it's a little bit warmer, so you can adjust that manually, but the default setting will be adjusted with this update. Something that they added to external displays now is that you can enable HDR and VRR, so just to be clear, that's not for the Steam Deck's display, this is for external displays that you'd be using through a USB-C hub or dock. So this is great. If you have a nice monitor that's capable of HDR or VRR, you can finally take advantage of that with your Steam Deck when you're playing docked. So this is good to see that they keep giving updates, just making the experience better and better as we go along. There was also some bug fixes in this update, but I'm not going to go over them today. I just have a lot to cover this week, so I'm just going to try to streamline it and go through just the main points. And the last thing for the Steam Deck is this cool case from tomtoc. Now, I actually like tomtoc cases. I've bought them for a number of devices over the years, like from a Nintendo Switch. The AYANEO Air Pro case is actually a tomtoc case. And I have one for my Switch Lite, and more recently, my wife just bought one for her OLED Switch. So I was happy to take a look at the Steam Deck one and add this as my new Steam Deck case. I do like how small they are, and I just kind of like the textured feel where they actually have cutouts for your joysticks. If you look at the back, there isn't room for your charger like the stock one, but again, this case is meant to be more of a low profile, just something you throw in the bag kind of case. So if you're a fan of this case, I'll drop a link in the description. I do think it's pretty nice if you're looking for something just minimal, so check it out. And that'll do it for the Steam Deck. Let's head over to AOKZOE. For AOKZOE, really the only update that I have for you guys is related to what I talked about earlier, and that's the new 7840U drivers that you can just install directly onto the device. So the good news is that it will work on the A1 Pro, and unlike previous drivers, you can just install it directly onto your device. You can just open up your AMD Adrenalin app and update it, and it will work. Previously that didn't work and we had to use custom drivers. So this is great news, but check out the quick news section for more information on those drivers. And the only other update is that I don't have any updates for the A2, but I will let you guys know as soon as I hear something. Okay, that's going to do it for AOKZOE. Let's head over to OneXPlayer. For OneXPlayer, over the last couple of weeks, there isn't a ton of updates, but the Onexfly campaign has been extended, so there should be a few days after the time of recording to still order one if you're interested. There's been a few more reviews that have gone live for the device. I've done one as well, so go check that out if you haven't already. I had messed up my audio when I uploaded it and had to re-upload, so it didn't really get pushed out to most people as it usually does. So if you missed that one but were interested, definitely check it out. I'll link it down below. And check out the campaign if you're interested in looking at one of these. I really do enjoy the OneXFly, so I would recommend at least giving it a look if you are in the market. Aside from that, the only update that I have for OneXPlayer is pretty well the same that I've had in AOKZOE, and I'll have it a few other devices, is that the new drivers for the 7840U are out and they do work on the Onexfly, as well as the OneXPlayer 2 Pro. So go ahead and grab those if you haven't already, and if you're playing Starfield, this should make your experience a lot more stable and a lot better. And that's all that I've got for OneXPlayer, so let's head over to AYANEO. For the last 2 weeks, I have 5 updates for AYANEO, so I'll go through them pretty quickly. The first one is the AYANEO Kun campaign is live now. We have models ranging from $9.99 all the way up to $16.99. And the configurations in that price range start at a 512GB SSD and 16 gigs of RAM, all the way up to 64 gigs of RAM and a 4TB SSD. The Indiegogo prices are still live, so if you're looking to get one, check it out sooner than later. I'll leave that link in the video description, and they are planning to ship out sometime in mid-October. And being a busy couple of weeks, we actually had another AYANEO product go live on Indiegogo, and that's the AYANEO Pocket Air. So that one starts at $279 and goes up to $399. AYANEO has said that they're only making a limited quantity, so if you're interested, maybe check it out sooner than later, although there is currently quite a few still remaining. You know the drill, check the video description to find the link. And if you thought I was done with product announcements for AYANEO, I'm not. There's actually 2 more updates. There's one for the AYANEO Flip. They did share some images on the Discord server. The first one shows a disc-style D-pad with the Flip, but they later changed that to be a cross-style, which I'm kind of glad they did. It did look like the D-pad was a little bit too large for the size that it was taking up. And it did look like if your fingers slipped off the D-pad, you would probably hit the keyboard, so I'm kind of glad that they went with a smaller cross-style D-pad that looks like it fits in just a lot better. No news on a release date or any updates in that regard, but I'll keep you guys up to speed as I learn more about that. And one last product that they gave us an image of is the final design of the AYANEO Slide, and if you take a look at it, it looks very much like an AYANEO Air but with a slide-out keyboard. So if that's true, it's probably using a lot of the same design and chipset of the AYANEO 1S, so that's a kind of a good thing. The joysticks will be the smaller Joy-Con size though, I'm gonna guess, unless they decide to deviate from the Air design, which I don't think is likely at this point. And my last update is for anyone that has an AYANEO device that has the 7840, so that could be the Neo 2S, the Geek 1S, the Air 1S. There is new drivers. I did talk about them in the quick news section, so check there if you want more information. What I've read in some of the communities is that they have been able to install it on their AYANEO 2S, so it seems like it should be working for AYANEO. So go ahead and grab that now, test it out, and let me know how that's working for you. And that's it for the AYANEO updates. Let's move on to GPD. I have 3 updates for GPD this last couple weeks. So the first one is for the WinMax 2. It seems that they've put out a new BIOS update that corrects an issue with the AMD drivers. It seems that there was some compatibility issues when you were using a G1 eGPU with your WinMax 2 and using the official AMD drivers. So this new BIOS update is supposed to address that. So I would recommend that if you are on one of these new WinMax models, that's the 7840 or 7640, that you do grab this BIOS update 0.35 and go through the process of updating it. You can check out their website for the instructions. Of course, I'm going to link down below in the video description. The second update for GPD is that the Win 4 unfortunately is going to be delayed to the 3rd week of September, so that should be coming up hopefully this next week. It seems that there was a bit of an issue with the APU driver, and they want to make sure that it has full compatibility, so they want to address that so that when you get the device, you'll be able to actually just install the AMD drivers and not have that compatibility issue. So my guess is probably a similar solution to what they just did with the WinMax 2, and now they're just looking at making sure it works on the Win 4. Also, some good news for the Win 4 is they're releasing some software to address the dead zone that the joysticks have, so you're able to fix it, tweak it, adjust it. It's something that they're going to be having on the Win Mini, and now they're going to be bringing it to the Win 4 and the WinMax 2. They're targeting roughly sometime next month in October. And my last update for GPD is actually about some heat issues that the Win Mini had, so I'm not sure if you guys have seen the video from the Fox. You could check it out if you'd like. He goes into more in-depth details of some challenges that the Win Mini is having where it's getting quite warm, it's a little bit hot to the touch and very uncomfortable. The good news is that GPD has responded to this on their Indiegogo and they are working on a fix. It seems like they're going to be using what they call glass fiber reinforced polycarbonate material, which apparently should help with the heat issue, and some people have expressed concerns about the strength of this solution, but they have reassured people that this won't be an issue and that the hinges should be fine. I guess previously there was some issues on the Win 2 that people are kind of referencing, so they have changed how they're doing that so that it doesn't have the same, I guess, issues that it had back then. But of course, we're going to have to wait till we can see some results of this to see if it actually fixed it or if there's any issues with the strength. And one update that I almost forgot because of this being a 2-week news cycle instead of the regular weekly is that the Win Mini campaign has actually gone live. I did put a community post out, but I didn't mention it in the weekly because of the cancellation last week. So I'll drop that link in the description. Definitely check it out. This does look like it's going to be a pretty interesting device, and I'm curious to see what your guys' thoughts are on it. And of course, the last update that I have mentioned in the other ones, and check the quick news for more information, is the new 7840 drivers. So that will impact the WinMax 2. It'll also impact the Win 4, which in the WinMax 2's case should be in your hands soon if it's not already, and the Win 4 is just around the corner. And that's all I've got for GPD this week, so let's move on over to AYN. For AYN, I only have 2 quick updates for you guys. So the first one is for the Loki Mini Pro, and it seems that they're going to be shipping out on September 20th, and they are anticipating being able to send out all of the orders this month. So that's great news for the backers. It seems like they're finally getting their device, and then I think it's on to the Loki Zero after that. The second bit of news is actually for the Odin 2, so it sounds like it's going to support 2230, 2242, and 2280 size M2 SSDs. And for the display, we got some clarity. Somebody had asked if the display was portrait or landscape, whatever its native resolution was, and it turns out it is a portrait display. Not really a massive surprise, but it's good to know that we have it confirmed now. And that's all I've got for AYN, and that's also the end of this week's recap. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.